So we have Belgium and the United States in the round of 16th, right? This would be taking place in a couple of hours. I wanted to go ahead and get your thoughts regarding this game. Let's not forget the 5-2 beating that the Belgians gave us, leading up to the World Cup. This was the last friendly before the World Cup started back in March. And yeah, they pretty much dominated the United States, and we cannot say the United States didn't play with a full squad because they did. We had a lot of our stars. Of course, this is a different game because the stage is different. We're talking about a World Cup game, and let's also go ahead. I want to get your thoughts about the overturn of the red card. So we're gonna obviously have them available for the game. So yeah, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, dude, I remember watching that one friendly 5-2, I remember, and I remember thinking to myself, it's like, damn, the US, they don't look good going into the World Cup.
Hmm.
But surprisingly, like I've said, the US have surprised me in terms of how they looked, into this World Cup so far, right? The 4-0 against Paraguay, the Australia game. And then, even the round of 32, right, where
Right.
they went one man down and they were still able to stay there and not concede a goal.
Yeah.
So, I think the US right now they're giving a lot of confidence, I would say. They're giving a lot of confidence, we're at home, they're playing good. Um, Based on what we saw in the round of 32, we saw that they're able to, you know,
Suffer.
suffer, yeah, not break down, like
Hmm.
before, and get games, through. So yeah, I think in this game I'm a lot more confident. And I think the US have a really good chance of getting the revenge on the 5-2. And we're talking about a Belgium that's not even in the prime, bro, because we're not seeing no prime De Bruyne, no prime Hazard in there. None of the prime defenders that they at one point they had. So yeah, I think the US have a really good chance of eliminating Belgium from the round of 16 and going to the quarterfinals, if you ask me.
I agree with you. And what about the red card that was overturned? What do you think?
So it's this. I think if I'm not mistaken, bro, the Belgian Federation and the team they're furious.
Yeah, they're
They're
mad.
they're furious, based on the statement that they put out, right? If it's the thing about it, bro, is if you look at it, it wasn't a record to begin with. That was the first mistake that was done because
Right.
it was accidental. It wasn't on purpose.
Right.
Had it been on purpose, that's a whole different story. We'll probably be talking about, corruption and whatnot. But I think that the referee, honestly, he made a mistake by giving out the red card because he wasn't even looking at the player's foot when he stepped on him. So,
Yeah,
the only thing I would say is I don't think it should have taken this long to overturn the decision. That I would say it shouldn't be one day before the game, starts because then it changes the way that the opposition goes into the game as well. You
I
only have
agree.
one game. If you, let's say, you're preparing tactics or whatnot, and you're believing that the opposition is not going to play with one of their key players because he's been a key player for the US. You plan it in a different manner, right? Then all of a sudden one day before the game starts, oh yeah, he's gonna be available, so now you have to kind of change it up a little bit. So I get that, that part, why they will be pissed. But, I think, the mistake was done by the referee by giving out the record to begin with.
All right. So when it comes to the red card, bro, I do have some mixed feelings about that, right? And the reason why I say that is because how can I say this? Do I think it's a red card, like how you mentioned earlier, right? It wasn't intentional. I agree with that. But based off on the rules, right? I mean, if the rules are the rules, then yes, it's a red card, right? Whether if it was intentional or not, I mean, unfortunately, the ref he made the call and he gave him a red card. The same thing for me, bro. And I'm a huge Messi fan. I will go ahead and say the same thing for Messi. Unfortunate to say, I think that for Messi as well was a red card. Whether if it was intentional or not, it's kind of like, for example, the game with England and Mexico. I don't think that his sole purpose was to pretty much go with his foot extended outwards, but it's I don't know if you saw the replay. The
Yeah,
ball hits his thigh, the bottom of his thigh, which caused the defenders, the English player leg to kind of go up. And I'm not saying
yeah.
that from the beginning, he didn't intentionally go with his leg up, if that makes sense. But I think that the impact that the ball had under his thigh is what actually made his foot go more outward. So
Yeah.
calls like that, I feel like they're very controversial, and I feel like that's when when VAR comes in, and some people can like VAR, some people may not like VAR. But I do think that VAR has kind of ruined the game in that aspect, right? Because if you're a referee and they're showing you a video footage, right, slow motion, right? They're showing a slow motion video footage, and you can clearly see the studs of this players, going into the player's legs, whatever. I mean, you're gonna say, yeah, it's a red card, right? So I think that it should be more clear. The rules should be more clear. I think the way the rules stand now, of course, it is a red card for both, as I mentioned, Messi and the United States forward, but I think it should be overruled and overturned to, hey, if it's not a physical, like if it's not intentionally done, right? If it's not intentionally done. But then again, it's like, how can you go ahead and then dictate whether they are intentional or not? So I can see why, like how you mentioned earlier, right, the Belgian Federation are upset because you're going over tactics, bro. You're in the round of 16, and you're preparing for maybe Pepe, and now you have to prepare, for the Moroccan forward. So yeah, it's tough. It's a tough call. I can't say his name. I think it's Balagan, right? That's how you mention it?
Balogun. I think it's
Balagan.
Balogun.
Balagan. Yeah. But
Yeah, I
whatever,
think yeah, it's because I think honestly, bro, I think the mistake was done by not giving Messi the red card.
Yeah.
And like you said, right? I'm a Messi fan too, bro. But if you're not gonna give Messi a red card, then why do you give another player for a similar challenge a red card? So I
Yeah.
think I think the inconsistency right there is what everybody's kind of upset about. And then you have to go into this thing where you have to overturn it, because it wasn't intentional. But then, why did you give the red cards to begin with? So yeah, I think there has to be more consistency, with the refereeing, where like, the referee who gave the record to Bellingham could have said with VAR, like, you know what, hey, a similar challenge happened with Messi. No record was given to him, so why don't we just keep that consistency? It doesn't seem intentional to me. I'm not gonna give a red card. I'll give a yellow card. You
Yeah,
know,
I think so
right?
too.
Just to keep that consistency, because then everybody was furious that, oh, why was Messi not given a red card, but Bellingham was given a red card, and then you have to go into this whole mess where it kind of looks it looks fishy, to be honest, because
Right.
it does. So, for us, of course, for us U.S. fans, we're happy, because he's been killing it for the U.S. and he's been important for the U.S. as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can see why the Belgian Federation are pissed and the Belgium team are pissed as well.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, and I agree with you. I think we're both on the same page. We can understand their frustration. And I understand it 100%. If I was maybe a Belgium coach, for example, I'm over here prepping for the United States without Balagan, whatever, Balagan, I think I would be furious like 24 hours before the game. Like, oh, guess what? The car was overturned. It's I think it opens up room for controversy, right? For both Messi and for both the United States now, right? Where people are gonna be like, oh yeah, FIFA, they're corrupt, or they go ahead and they're being able to, do rules as they please. People even brought Trump into this. They were saying that Trump had
Yeah,
something to do with the ruling. Who knows, bro?
yeah, yeah. Of
It's
course they were gonna
controversial.
bring.
I think we
Yeah, of
can
course.
both agree that it is controversial at the end of the day. Whether you want to
Yeah.
admit it or not, it opens room for controversy.
No, of
But
course. I think it was definitely controversial. Um, but yeah, anyways, well, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I wanted to ask you, do you think this game goes to extra time due to penalties? And if it does, do you think the US can win on penalties? Let's just say it goes to penalties, right?
okay, so do I think it's gonna go to extra time? I think so. I think it can. Right.
Yeah.
I think that I had mentioned earlier, right? What both you and I mentioned earlier, the 5-2 is probably still gonna be in the players' heads. They're gonna
Yeah.
remember that. So are they gonna go out attacking as they did against Paraguay? No, I don't think so, right? Are they going to be more conservative, in my opinion, how they did against Bosnia? I think so. But then again, Bosnia, I think,
Yeah.
surprised a lot of us because we thought Bosnia was probably going to sit back. But no, they didn't, right?
Yeah.
And so with Belgium, I think that there's a possibility of it going to extra time. And if it does go to penalties, you know what, bro? Let's not forget that, in my opinion, Courtois is one of the best goalkeepers in the world, bro. So I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to take my chances at PKs with Belgium, to be honest. I just wouldn't.
You know what, dude? I think Belgium have been in more penalty shootouts in the World Cup than the US has.
Mhm.
So I would say that, I would favor Belgium, in a penalty shootout over the US.
Right.
But one thing I would say though, bro, is for teams to go deep into the competition. Let's just say we want the US to get to the quarterfinals or even dream of getting to a semifinal. They have to win a penalty shootout, at
At
some
some point.
point.
Hmm.
They're gonna have to win at least one. So, hopefully this is the one. You never know, Like I said, the US, they seem confident, bro. The US, the players, they seem confident. They seem like, they believe they can get far. So, who knows, right? But I would say that, yeah, I would lean more towards Belgium, if you were to ask me, in a penalty shootout
Yeah.
right now as it stands.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't get to that, right? Hopefully the United
Yeah.
States can put it away in the first 90 minutes. And as you mentioned, after that, if they do, we can dream about in the quarterfinals the possibility of facing Portugal or Spain, correct?
Yeah.
So let's take it, you could say, round by round, right? Because we're here because of the round of 16. We were there for the round of 32s, and we were there before for the group stages and before the World Cup.
Yeah.
So I guess let's see what happens. But on another note, right? Coming into this round of 32, we saw some surprises, and I wanted to ask you about that, right? I'm gonna give you some of the surprises for me, and I don't want to, I guess, take everything, and not have your point of view. So actually, let me just go ahead and start by asking you, um, what matches surprised you the most coming into the round of 32? What elimination surprised you the most coming in, after the round of 32s? Did you expect certain teams to struggle? And I guess I can kind of ask you, Argentina versus Cape Verde, did you expect for Argentina to struggle the way they did? Um, Let me go ahead and ask you about Brazil, Croatia, right?
Oh,
And
Brazil,
then,
Norway, Brazil, Norway.
sorry, yeah, Brazil, Norway. Let's
Hmm.
go ahead and talk about um, oh man, Mexico,
Croatia.
England.
Yeah, Mexico, England, but Croatia, Portugal, bro.
Croatia,
Remember
Portugal. Yeah,
another
Croatia.
controversy.
Yeah, Croatia, Portugal. And then let me go ahead and ask you about Morocco and Canada. I mean, Morocco and Canada, maybe not, because I think we both anticipated, unfortunately, Morocco being a lot for Canada. But yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. So give me your thoughts.
I think the one that most surprised me, bro, and I think is the one that you forgot was Germany against Paraguay.
Oh yeah, bro. Because
That
you know what, dude? Just
one.
real quick, there's been so many freaking surprises into this World Cup, bro, and I think that both.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we know everything when it comes to football, bro, but I think that we've seen football enough to not underestimate a country, right? And not
Yeah.
underestimate a team, because we've seen it multiple times in the Champions Leagues, in the Euros, in the Copa Americas, in the World Cups, right? That's the first time we see things like this happen. And so many countries have been, you could say, surprising. And yeah, it surprised me the most that Paraguay, Germany, my goodness. But yeah, go ahead, bro. That was crazy.
Yeah, that one I think, bro, it was really surprising, dude, because I think nobody expected that coming. Nobody expected for Paraguay to take it all the way to extra time, take it all the way to penalties and then nobody expected the Germany players to not step up the way they didn't step up, when it
Right.
came to the penalty shootout. So yeah, that one was, I think, at the top of my list.
I wanna add something to that real quick, if you don't mind,
Mhm.
because you're talking about the how we didn't anticipate the German players not stepping up to the plate when it mattered. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you read about this article, but they were saying that supposedly there was a meeting in the German Federation, and they came to the conclusion that Goretzka is never going to play for Germany again. And I don't know if you saw
Oh,
this clip during that Battle White versus Germany, and Joshua Kimmich was
yeah, I
going
saw that.
around. Okay,
Hmm.
so to to what I'm trying to say is that I guess right there and then he was telling Goretzka to step up and shoot that fifth penalty, I think it was the fourth penalty, and Goretzka said no. So I think the German Federation said, like, you know what, you've been, like, you could say a senior in this team, a captain in
Hmm.
this team, whatever, and for you not to go ahead and step up when it mostly matters, I guess they both agree. Nah, you're done, dude. Crazy.
Well, yeah, and then people may say, "Oh, it's like it's not even a big deal," but the problem is that, when it comes to a World Cup penalty shootout, bro, it's so unpredictable and there's no favorites. It's a
Yeah.
50-50. It's a coin toss. That's why, even when Argentina won it in 2022, the penalty shootouts they had against Netherlands, right? That was crazy. The penalty shootouts that they had against France, bro, they were even crazier. So, it's nerve-wracking, and then you had Tao who took the last penalty and he blew it, right?
Yeah.
It's the players, bro. The players, it's very tense, and nerve-wracking. But yeah, I would say that one surprised me the most as well, bro, because, you know, Paraguay got smacked around by the US. So let's
Yeah,
not let's not
bro.
forget that, but I want to add a quick note to that, and that is that I think a lot of these European teams, bro, they just struggle against CONMEBOL teams because I don't think that they are ready or they prepare enough or they anticipate the aggressiveness that these CONMEBOL teams come with. We for us we see it as normal because when we watch the Copa America, right, or even the Gold Cup, well, but mostly the Copa America, not the Gold Cup, but when we watch the Copa America, we watch these South American teams go at it with each other, bro. They crack the hell out of each other.
Yeah,
They
bro.
they going hard, they going rough. Bro, the France against Paraguay. I don't know if you saw the
Yeah, I saw the highlights,
bro,
bro.
the Paraguay players were kicking the hell out of the French players. And then the French players, you had Mbappe saying, "Oh yeah, they thought that we're gonna come with our tuxedos, but we show that we step." Bro, the French players were throwing themselves on the floor.
Did you though? Did you, huh, bro? Like, did they? Because
They
they were.
did. Like, I don't think so, bro, because every single touch you were looking at the ref, you were throwing yourself on the floor trying to get a red card. So,
They were like,
and
help!
then yeah, and then the ref didn't give a yellow card out. People were fuming about that the
Yeah,
program. But I think the reason why, bro, is because the ref was like, "Hey man, just play the game." You're not in the Euro right here. You're in the World Cup. You're facing teams that are coming from different countries that have a different mentality. They play a different way. So yeah, that's the reason why I want to say that the Germany one shocked me the most. But and then after that one, bro, I do have to say it was the Cape Verde and Argentina one. That one, I'm not gonna lie, bro. That one had me a little nervous. I was like, damn, are we gonna see Messi go out so early in this World Cup?
yeah, bro. Phew.
But what do you think about that one though? About the Cape Verde and Argentina? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't expect that either, bro.
No, I didn't expect this, especially after Argentina scored the first goal, right? They go up 1-0, and Messi makes a sick ass goal, dude. He makes a sick goal. Martinez gives him a sick pass. I said, "Oh my goodness, what a pass!" But then what a finish for Messi. I say, for you to go ahead and stop, I don't think people realize how difficult it is, bro, to do that. In the World Cup stage, in a professional, you can say a big tournament, for you to stop that ball with on the outside of your foot, pretty much lay it flat to you and just kick, bro. It's hard. So they go up, and then Cape Verde scores the tied goal, right? And it comes literally almost out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And then Argentina go up again, and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, we kind of knew Argentina was gonna go. And then, my goodness, bro, this dude scores a freaking banger from Cape Verde. Bro, when
yeah,
when I saw that ball bend, I said, "Go, let's go, bro." You could see it going. Phew. It was nearly no goalkeeper in the world was going to stop that. And I said to myself,
yeah,
"Wow, okay, the momentum is for sure on their side now." I said the momentum is on their side, and I was a little bit nervous, just like as you mentioned, because I said to myself, Martinez is a hell of a goalkeeper in the World Cup and penalty shootouts. But bro, the kind of game that the Cape Verde's goalkeeper was having, Vozini, I think his name is. I said
yeah,
to myself, hey, you build momentum off those saves. So I was saying, man, if they go to PKs, can Argentina win it? Are we going to see it? See them get eliminated? But I mean, I think that's the reason why, right? That Cape Verde made both Spain and Uruguay pretty much seem kind of like average team as well. They made Argentina, Spain, and Uruguay seem average, and they didn't lose to none of them in the first 90 minutes. And 90 minutes
yeah,
didn't lose to them, bro. I think that's very honorable from Cape Verde. And I feel like, man, you know what? They went out, and I mean, they I guess they can't regret anything, bro. They left themselves on the field. And sometimes you like that, you want to see things like that.
yeah, yeah, dude. It just comes to show you, that sometimes, it's not about the players you have, but it's also about, you know, positioning yourself correctly, right? Giving it all, running a lot, having desire and the belief that you can do it. Because, if Cape Verde didn't believe that they can win that game, bro, they would have never gone for it. But they went for
Yeah.
it, dude.
Hmm.
They went for it to the point where Argentina were asking for the time. That's just the truth.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that
Arch,
100% they
yeah,
were.
Argentina were asking for the time, bro, and then that one, I want to say, the Germany for me was the biggest shocker, but the way Argentina finished that game was like that was another shocker as well, bro, because I would have never expected for Argentina to be asking for the time like that, like the way they were.
Yeah, bro.
Mm,
It was intense, and I guess we can move on, right? To the. I mean, those are the games, but I kind of want to, I guess ask you about certain games. So I kind of want to save the Brazil, for later, if you're okay with that, because I think
yeah,
I want to ask, I want to go more than just the game itself. So just give me, I guess the Morocco, like I said, Morocco, Canada. I think it was a little bit anticipated that Canada, unfortunately, were going to go
yeah,
out. Now let's talk about England, Mexico, right? We had England and Mexico coming in. Mexico, as obviously we all know, they're also a hosting nation alongside the United States, Canada. So in this game, we had Mexico coming in. I think they had only lost twice in Estadio Azteca, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they hadn't lost in years. I don't really want to say the number, but I think it was, or I don't know how many years, right? But it had been years, 'cause I was hearing the commentary say that. So you had England coming in into this round of 32, right? And from their last game, England didn't look good coming into this game. Mexico, on the contrary, looked good after beating
mhm.
Ecuador, right? I think the momentum was on their side. Did you think before this game? Did you think that it was going to be a walk in the park for England, or what did you expect into this coming into this game? And what are your thoughts after, unfortunately, us seeing Mexico get eliminated?
Yeah, dude. I kind of knew that England were gonna struggle out there. I kind of knew it because I think well, England haven't looked good. They haven't looked too convincingly. And then I kind of figured that the altitude, they're not used the players are not used to playing at that
Mhm.
altitude, in that stadium. They're away from home. They're playing at the Azteca, which is not an easy stadium to play in as well. And lo and behold, they did struggle, bro. I mean, I think Mexico, in my opinion, bro, if they had better strikers, better finishers, I think Mexico would have got the third goal, the tie-up goal towards the end. Because after England got the red card, they got a PK, right? Which, in my
Yeah.
opinion, they got it right on time. Because had the PK came a little bit longer, or let's say if they were 2-2 with one man down, I think Mexico would probably score a third goal, first, because England would have tried to look for a goal, right? But that allowed them to sit back. And I think, which in my opinion is just a dumb move to make. Why sit back if you have players to, try to look for the fourth goal and maybe just, put the game to rest. But whatever, they made the choice to sit back. I honestly thought that England looked I don't know, they look worse than Cape Verde, bro. Even though they were what, one man down, but it's like, have some shame, like you guys just parked the bus, begging for the time as well. And like I said, if Mexico had better strikers, bro, I think Mexico would have scored a third goal and would have taken it to extra time.
Well, look, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think England played bad, bro. For the first, I would say 20 minutes of the first half, I think Mexico had the upper hand. Actually, I will go
Yeah,
as far as saying before England scored the goal, I think Mexico was atop, right? But I also believe that it's very hard to go to the Estadio Azteca, right? And be able to keep up with that pressure, high
yeah,
altitude. And not even that, it's just the fact that you have all these freaking fans, bro. They're all against you, right? There was a lot
yeah,
of things I think that England did good. And if you look at the game, I don't think England played that, but this is my opinion, right? But as you mentioned, I mean, I think if Mexico had better strikers or better finishing up there, I think they for sure would have got the third goal and then extra time. I mean, we don't know what would have happened.
yeah,
And with that being said, I think that I also knew that England were going to struggle. I knew that it was not going to be a walk in the park for England, especially because to feed your point, I also think that England are one of those other European teams that come and just kind of play too pretty sometimes. Bellingham for me played a hell
yeah.
of a game,
He
right?
did,
I think he was the only, in my opinion, not the only, but he was one. I think he was the best player in a sense that that dude just never stopped running, bro. He never stopped
yeah,
running. I think that that's the reason why I guess Real Madrid signed them, because we always knew that Bellingham was good. But with that being
I
said, yeah, I
agree.
mean, they got eliminated. This leaves the United States as the only hosting nation left in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm kind of excited to see what happens for them, and tomorrow's game later, and tomorrow's game. Do you want
Yeah.
anything for that game, or you want to move on to the Brazil?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about just a little bit about the
Yeah.
Portugal and Croatia, bro, because that one was a
Okay.
crazy game too, dude.
Okay. Okay.
I remember I texted you, bro, and I told you I was like, damn, it would be a disaster and it would be a failure if Portugal get eliminated right now in the round of 32 by Croatia.
Yeah.
Especially, bro, because of the players that Martinez has at his disposal, right? Especially that midfield. And honestly, bro, Portugal are not playing good at all.
No.
They don't look good through the middle at all. Um, and then, if it wasn't, and then, a lot of people were saying, is Martinez going to have the courage to substitute Ronaldo off? And he did. He actually subbed him off, he did it. And I think it was a desperate move, in my opinion. He also took out Vitinha. He took out Bruno Fernandes as well. But in my opinion, bro, that header from Ramos, right? Um, it was a lucky header, bro, because I just didn't see Portugal scoring any other way. And the Croatia they played a hell of a game. I think Croatia were better than Portugal in that game, period. And then it went to extra
Was it
time,
offside?
right? Which
I
one?
think it was the Croatia. The one that didn't count for Croatia. I think it was
Yeah, that
offside.
and that's what I was gonna tell you, bro. The whole, you know,
Controversy.
the controversy, right? Because um I mean, there is video footage of the Portugal player, the one with the afro, I forgot his name. It
Hmm.
did he did hit her back. So after the Croatian player supposedly, headed it, I think it bounced off the head of the defender. The defender headed it back. So it could be considered as you're no longer offside if the player itself is heading it back to the goalkeeper, right? Or trying to get it out. But I think what they did was they counted the touch of the head or the hair that the Croatian player made, at the initial contact. I think he got it right, but that was a hectic call to make. And I think the if the referee would have called the game at the time that it was supposed to be called, he would have avoided all that drama.
I agree with you, bro. I agree with you.
But yeah, that was another one, bro, where it was like, damn, I didn't expect Portugal to struggle that much against Croatia because we're talking about a Croatia, bro, that's past its prime. We're talking about Croatia that's even older than the Croatia that Messi faced in 2022. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they struggled and they almost got KO'd. They almost got eliminated, Portugal.
I'll be honest with you, bro. When I saw this Portugal Croatia game coming along, I said it's not going to be an easy game for Portugal. I kind of, I'm not going to lie, I kind of, figured that Portugal were going to win it, but I wasn't surprised to see, Croatia giving it to them at some point, not outplaying them, right? I just thought it was going
Yeah.
to be like a back and forth, and Portugal was going to also be going back and forth. But as you mentioned to me when we were texting, that you believe that Colombia exposed Portugal,
Yeah.
right? And I thought that I didn't think that Croatia was going to pretty much outplay them, and I think what kind of I guess irritated me too is because we're football fans, bro. Whether we're rooting for certain teams, but when we see a stacked team, we kind of expect them to play good, right? And coming into this World Cup, I personally, and I still stand by it. I said that Portugal coming into this World Cup had the best midfielder as an all-around player by player position, right? Not
Mhm.
just like, oh, this guy's better. No, I'm saying every player, like you have Joao Neves, who's a Champions League winner, two times Champions League winner, right? You have Vitinha, who's a two times Champions League winner. You have Bernardo Silva coming off of, you could say a semi good season with City, but still has the experience. And then you have Bruno Fernandes, right, who's also a pretty good player. So you have multiple players at your disposal. And for you to go ahead, in my opinion, take out two players, right? As you've mentioned, Bruno and Vitinha, it reeks of desperation. Then what made me laugh is that he keeps Ronaldo, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so you took out two players that are able to touch the ball and feed the forward, right? So now you keep Ronaldo, a 41-year-old player, and you expect for him to run for the balls because you're pretty much blowing the balls to him at this point. And then
Yeah.
what does he do? He does a whole 380 because then he takes out Ronaldo and adds him to the midfielder. And then I said, what is this guy
Yeah.
doing? I think, like you mentioned, I think it's just he got nervous, bro, and I think he got saved by the bell, right? He got saved by the
Yeah.
bell. And I mean, I'm glad that Portugal's still in it, bro, because I want to see some great games tomorrow later on we're seeing Spain and Portugal. It's gonna be a hell of a game, bro.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. I guess for that game, and I mean, I guess that Portugal and Croatia was also a crazy game.
it was. Yeah,
Now let's talk about, I guess, the fortunate game that we saw today too, which was Brazil getting eliminated, bro. We saw Brazil get. I want to take like about maybe like 3 or 4 minutes into this Brazil Norway game, right? And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to mention, obviously, as we all know, that Neymar pretty much retired from international football, which we kind of knew, right?
yeah,
We kind of knew that if
yeah,
Neymar didn't want, he was going to go ahead and retire after this World Cup, win or lose. The way he kind of goes out is kind of sad, right? Because
yeah.
he never won anything major with Brazil. I think we can both agree that ever since he left Barcelona, I mean, I think his career kind of went downhill from there, bro. Injuries and all that, whatnot, it kind of went downhill. And then leading up to this World Cup, we're thinking like, damn, is Neymar gonna get called out by Ancelotti? Obviously, as we know, the Brazil Federation, they appointed Ancelotti as a coach. He ends up calling Neymar, and then into the World Cup. Coming into the World Cup, we said, Brazil may be there, and maybe not clear favorites, but they may be there. But then from the first game, I didn't see Brazil, bro. I didn't see a Brazil there. I saw an average ass team, in my opinion. I think more average than that of how Portugal have been playing. And then unfortunately, they get eliminated by Norway. So give me your thoughts. Let's go. Let's dive into this Norway Brazil game more, and give me your thoughts and your expectations coming into this game before the elimination.
Yeah, dude, it is sad to see Nate go out like that, to be honest, because like you said, in our point of view, his career went downhill ever since he left Barca. That was the last time he won a major trophy, which is a Champions League. After that, yeah, he won the league with Paris, but he never won the Champions League with Paris. Never won anything major with Brazil. He got all the money in the world. That's true, but
Yeah.
football's like that, bro. Football cannot give you cannot get everything in football, I think Messi, for example, he had to go through a lot of moments, where he went into a dark spot, right? Where he was thinking, you know what, this is it. I'm just not gonna be able to win anything with Argentina. I tried or whatnot, and it wasn't meant to be. But one big difference was that Messi was still young, still in his prime.
Mhm.
Whereas we see Neymar, he's what, 32 right now? 32,
34,
33.
bro. He's 34.
He, he's 34. Could he make it to the next World Cup? I doubt it. Even if he were to change his mind, I doubt he'll be able to make it to the next World Cup, to be honest. The reason why I'm saying this is because he doesn't have the discipline that Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo have.
Right.
We've seen it in the past 10 years where, he was up there with CR7 and Messi, in terms of skill level, maybe not the numbers, but in terms of skill level. And then, he just went off with injuries, not taking it seriously, partying too much and whatnot. So yeah, it is sad to see him go like that, bro. But that's football. Football can take away from you, can give you a lot, but it can also take away from you a lot. So like you said, when Brazil started, the first game was not convincing at all. And that was against Morocco. I remember Morocco outplayed them. And then, they kept going, they kept going. They didn't look good at all. They struggled against Japan. They had to score a last minute goal by Martinelli, to save them. Um, and, I think Rafinha getting injured, didn't help him at all. It didn't help him as well, because today you could have probably said, man, if they had Rafinha up there, maybe he could have scored a goal, because they did have some, a couple of chances like the one that Enrique had, right? But yeah, I think, I did think that Brazil, I was one of the ones who said that I wanted to see how Ancelotti does in this World Cup because I believe that Ancelotti is a good manager in terms of like short competitions. So I am disappointed to see, Brazil go out so early, bro, and Neymar. But one thing I would say, bro, is that I don't think this is an Ancelotti problem. I don't think this is a Neymar problem. I think this is just a whole nation, you know, not getting their crap together, and I think Argentina were there at one point. They got the
Hmm.
crap together. They decided to just, go back to the basics. And I think that's what Brazil need to do, bro. Brazil
France too.
yeah. Yeah, you're right, and I think Brazil need to do that, bro. They need to dig deep, and they need to go ahead and stop trying to just change coaches left and right, to bring us a quick success. If I were Brazil, I would have never fired the coach from the 2022 World Cup, because even though they got eliminated by Croatia, it's still progression that you do, and give them another Copa America, give them another World Cup, because what happened to the coach that, participated in the 2024 Copa America? Didn't he get fired so quick, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken? So yeah, I think the dumbest thing they can do now is get rid of Ancelotti. I wouldn't do it. I know many people will say, yeah, he needs to go, whatnot. I think you also say that he needs to go, but I honestly wouldn't let him go, bro. I think, who you get, that's the problem. Who's out there, and um, why not just, give him a little bit more time? He only had 1 year to prepare, realistically. I will give him more time, give him to the next Copa America, which is in 2 years, and then we'll see we'll see what since then, to see how everything goes.
So the reason why, and yeah, I get you. The reason why I think that Ancelotti should leave, and I still stand by my decision, bro, my thought process is because, in my opinion, is yes, he had 1 year to prepare, right? I can give him the 1 year. Do we expect the Brazil, to be playing like a prime Brazil back in the 2000s? No, of course not, right? But we do expect the Brazil to be playing a certain type of way, right? Yeah, a year is not a long time, but it's also not the, you could say like the time that Scaloni had with Argentina. When he was an interim coach, then he became the first head coach, right? Let's not forget that Scaloni, people forget, he was the interim coach, and they just gave him the job.
Yeah,
As meanwhile, here you go. Let's see what happens, and then he had Argentina playing a certain way. He got them to play a certain way, and so with doing so, he had to take some tough calls, right? Now calling back, you could say Gago, Banega, Mascherano, Aguero, etc. They used to call them the Messi friends, right? So when it comes to Brazil and Ancelotti, like I said, it's not that we expect for him to play like this excellent type football, but I think it's you expect for him to make certain decisions in the field, and even when it comes to calling certain players that maybe he knows deep down inside shouldn't be there. Like in my opinion, right? I don't think Casemiro should be the starter alongside Bruno Guimaraes. Like I said, you had Jolinton. I'm not too sure if he's injured or not, but you had other. You're gonna tell me, bro, that Brazil, being Brazil, how many players they produce around the world, they don't have a better right back than Danilo. They don't have a better CDM of that of Casemiro, right? Marteleni, for example, what was he like on and off against for Arsenal, right? And then
yeah,
Endrick, in my opinion, he's a young kid. You're not gonna put the pressure on him. We have Vinicius Jr., who pretty much just seemed like the whole team was depending on Vinicius Jr. And then you have Cunha, right? But then again, you leave Joao Pedro, who was Chelsea's top goal scorer in the Premier League, out for a 34 Neymar. I want a Neymar there, right? I think he still could have been there, but maybe you could have left somebody else and still taken Joao Pedro, right? And then you have Rafinha. You can't really say too much of Rafinha because his stay at Brazil was pretty much just kind of short, his injury.
yeah,
But today, for example, right? In my opinion, he should have been started Neymar, right?
yeah,
You play Neymar the second World Cup game, you give him like 20, 30 minutes, and from there you bench them, right? And then for Japan, he didn't play, right, against Japan. And then this game, you give him like 20, 30 minutes as well. But then you put him as a forward, as a false nine. So that's questionable, dude, because you had Endrick. You had just substituted Endrick to be your forward, but then you're like, hey, you know what? Let's put Neymar. Let's go ahead and put him as a false nine. And I think he threw Endrick to the right wing position.
yeah,
And then, as I mentioned, right? I don't know if you know this, but Rafinha was able to play at least 15, 20 minutes. I don't know about you. And that's why I said when it came to Mexico today against England, people can say whatever they want to say, but truth of the matter is Mexico played really good in this World Cup. Because at the end of the day, too, bro, Aguirre did what he was supposed to do as a coach. He said, hey, you know what? These dudes just scored 2 goals on me. Okay, we tied up the goal. Boom, we tied up the game. Now we're gonna say, I'm gonna throw two forwards on you guys. He threw Santi and Raul Jimenez stay on the field, and then at certain point of the game, he threw a third forward. That's what literally caused England to be like, oh man, we gotta go try back. But with Brazil, I don't think Ancelotti did that. You feel me? There's certain things I think Ancelotti should have done that he didn't do. And so for me in that point, bro, it's like I mean, I don't know. Like I said, should you get rid of Ancelotti? Tough call, bro. But I think I would, to be honest. I think I would personally. I still stand by it. I would. Maybe it'll be the regrettable. You'll regret the decision later on down the line. But I think something has to happen. I mean, look at Germany. Look at Germany. You had
Yeah,
Nagelsmann saying that, oh, if you get beat by a Paraguay team, you're not elite. Then, dude, you got beat by them. Like you're the
yeah,
coach. So then what they do? Bye bye. We got Klopp. They got Klopp. So yeah, that's the reason why I guess it kind of irritated me seeing Brazil the way they played, because I don't think that one game during this whole World Cup Brazil looked like a dominant team, right? They never looked like a dominant team. We've seen Argentina look dominating. We've seen, you can say, Germany even look dominating. When against Curacao, remember they scored 6-1 and ended up beating them. The Dutch looked pretty dominant against Japan. They looked pretty good, pretty solid. Morocco, Spain, Portugal, you name it. But when it came to Brazil, we were like, it's kind of like Portugal now, and that's the reason why we criticized Martinez. It was like, yo, when is this team gonna show up? So I don't know. I guess we'll see. What happens with Ancelotti. But yeah, that's the reason why. And so it surprised me the way Brazil went out against Norway. That surprised
yeah.
me.
I agree, dude. And the coach at the end of the day will get the heat of it. So,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do let him go. I mean, I wouldn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. And let's also not forget, that Scaloni, after he got appointed, I believe he lost the Copa America in 2019, I think, and the semifinals by Brazil. But they
No, I
still
don't think
kept
it was
him.
Scaloni. Was it 2019?
Yeah, I think Scaloni got appointed in 2017 or 2018, if
No,
I'm
I
not
think he started in
mistaken.
2019, bro. Scaloni. I
Okay, so
think the I.
maybe.
So I think the one you're thinking about is the one they fired. I forgot who was the head coach, and they kept Scaloni as the interim coach.
Okay,
And that's
because
where
I
Scaloni's
think.
tension, like you can say his career started under Tina.
Okay, all right. Well, I have to revisit that because I read somewhere that he got eliminated by the Copa America in the semifinals by Brazil. That was his first major competition. And then he went on to win the 2021 and won at the Maracanã, and then the
Yeah.
2022 World Cup, and then the 2024 Copa America.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to revisit. I'm gonna do my research to see if that is. But yeah, we'll see what happens though, bro. But long story short, I do think it's sad to see Nate go out like that.
Yeah.
It was
It's
it
it
was pretty
sucks.
sad. It was pretty sad. But that's football, bro. It happens.
Yeah. Okay. And just to end this video real quick, bro. We'll end it after this. Scoreboard: Spain, Portugal. Who goes through? Just don't even tell me a scoreboard because it's very hard to predict. But just who goes through? Spain or Portugal?
I see Spain going through, bro. Portugal, in my opinion, I don't unless there's a different team that shows up tomorrow. I just don't see Portugal beating Spain, or unless Portugal just sit back and counter them, maybe they can eliminate Spain. But right now, off the top of my head, I think Spain go through.
USA, Belgium.
I want to say the U.S., bro. We
Yeah.
believe, brother. We believe. No, I think the U.S., bro. The U.S. have a really good chance,
I
and I'm
think so too.
confident. Yeah,
I think Spain edges out Portugal, and I think that USA edges out Belgium. It's gonna be two great games. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see if we're still here in the round of eight quarterfinals. I'm sorry for the USA. If not, we'll continue talking about the World Cup, bro. Because it's been an amazing World Cup. Let's see what happens.
yeah, dude. We'll see what happens.